The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining our educational webinar series. Today's topic is around the financial controls area that is really emerging, an area of interest to our customers, which is the exchange rates. So as we're dealing with various volatilities in trade disputes that you're, I'm sure, reading about every day in the news, commodities fluctuation, as well as other tensions, geopolitical tensions that we all hear about, that's impacting the FX rates. And so we're really excited to have Peter from FX Loader join us today. And so Peter and I have known each other for many years and met at many conferences, and we're really excited to have him come today to our webinar and share how customers are using FX Loader to prevent some of the FX related risks in their systems. My name is Adil Khan, the CEO here at SafePaaS, and we welcome all of you to our session. So we'll jump right in to the session and get started. So first, a quick introduction and agenda. Most of you know us through our various webinar series. SafePaaS has been around business prior to this as Fulcrum Way for about 15 years now, and this is area of expertise for us is governance, risk, and compliance area, and we do a number of webinars and events throughout the US and other markets around the world. And so if you need to learn more about our area of expertise and want to learn how other customers use us, please visit our website or our LinkedIn posts and our pages. About 250 customers today. We're very honored to have great leading brands around the world select us as their governance, risk, and compliance partner over the last many years, and we have had the opportunity to learn a lot from the industries and the markets as we have helped these organizations with their needs. So with that, Peter, if you want to do a brief introduction on yourself and your company, that would be excellent.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks very much, Adil. Thanks for inviting me. Hello, everybody. Yeah. So my name is Peter Kerr from FX Loader, and FX Loader, as the name suggests, is what we do is we automate getting FX rates into ERPs and other applications. So we have SaaS software that sits in between the major sources of rates and our clients' ERP and other applications. And so a quick bit of info about FX Loader on the slide there. If you don't know, if you haven't heard of the Oracle Cloud Marketplace, that's kind of like an app store for products that extend and integrate with Oracle's cloud offerings, cloud applications. So FX Loader was, as I said, the first on there for financials, and we're currently the top rated amongst around 4,000 other applications based on reviews that are on there. And we're also a customer of Oracle. So our platform is an Oracle Cloud Platform as a Service, or PaaS. So you may have heard of that, and that's where our application sits.
Okay, that's great news. Thank you.
And the next slide, yeah. So this just helps you visualize where our software sits. So we're sitting in between those major FX rate sources and various ERP applications. And then the next slide, there's a few of our clients. So if I just pick one of the oldest of our clients at the top right there, and Trust Data Card, I'll give you an example of what they do. So they're running e-business suite. They have 80 plus currencies that they need rates for. Basically every country that their staff travel to for around the world and kind of expenses in. And obviously they needed a trusted rates provider. They wanted to load the rates every day, which was a real headache to do manually from a spreadsheet. So they're using FX Loader with Ignite, in fact, to get those rates. And just one more example, one of our newest customers, Arcadis, sitting in the middle there, they had a process where they're getting rates from xe.com and manually entering them by a team, an external support team in the Philippines. So they've managed to get rid of the cost of that. And they actually load rates into eBusiness Suite and Oracle Sales Cloud. So they got two separate applications at the moment they want the same rates going into. So they're using FX Loader for that. Okay.
That's great introduction. Thank you, Peter. Let's talk a little bit about the FX risks. I've sort of touched on it in the opening, but just to give you a little bit of a perspective, I found this stats in a survey that was recently conducted by Deloitte. And what we're finding is that FX is a key concern and has been for the last couple of years of executives, treasury departments, and so forth. And the top challenge that's facing this area is the lack of visibility of FX exposure and being able to forecast that. So 56% of the 250 or so CFOs that were surveyed reported that as a key concern. Emerging markets, which is an area of growth for most global organizations today, also brings the challenge of currency market volatility. So we've seen that even within US, Europe, and China, but when you include other markets, and I'll ask Peter to give some examples later on. We have a case study to talk about it further. And then exposure, also causes problems with capturing the information and so forth, which is the key benefit of having an automated approach, or we call it an automated control. In this case, FX Loader, right? So these are some of the survey findings, and essentially, to sum it up, as you can see on the left there, you can read it yourself. But just the fact that it has such a major impact, and what caught my attention, frankly, was when I was with a client talking about their financial statement risks. They mentioned that a few months ago, during the year-end close, they had to make over $1 million adjustment entry because somebody had keyed in the FX rate incorrectly in Oracle eBusiness Suite. They have plants in Brazil, and Brazil rates, as you might know, have been fluctuating quite a bit with the inflation and other economic impacts over the last few years. So it has a significant impact on financial statements, and we obviously are vigilant about that, and we help our customers protect the quality of financial statements that are presented. As well as operational risks, fraud risks, and just the turbulence that's caused, with the impacts around risk. So those are some of the top concerns of management that we will address today. So to address these concerns, what you'll see from us today is, how we'll give you an approach on how you can become more proactive. So instead of the example that I just presented, where you find this out at the year-end process, we want you to be able to prevent that, because obviously the cost of correcting and the potential risk of misstatement these days is significant. So step one, again, looking at it from a maturity perspective, you want to make sure that you have good policies and objectives documented. Most of our customers have that, and efficient ways of just making sure you're making the right hedging decisions around currencies, whether it's an internal treasury department or external parties you rely on, depending on your need. And so that's kind of the starting point, and that's where we typically engage our customers, is when they have established that type of a framework in place, or we can assist with that as well. And then we look at under SafePaaS, we have a series of controls that can help you detect any issues that have occurred or might occur in the future around your forecasts for cash flow, your market data, other hedging factors. So by lifting that objectives from the first step, we're able to help you implement FX controls in SafePaaS. And these controls essentially will monitor the rates, the transactions, and master data around your hedging principles and rules that you've established. Our monitors are based on rules. So that makes it easier for you to implement policies. And then, what we would like to recommend today and to our customers in general is, automate that process of managing FX rates. It's a very reasonable, cost-effective solution, and it saves you significant amount of risk and, quite frankly, embarrassment for misstating financial results, right? So FX Loader is the solution. Many companies have offered different types of areas, and service companies can provide it. But what we find is a majority of Oracle customers are going to FX Loader, and we're really excited to have that live demo today that Peter's going to show in a little bit. So let's leave some time for that. And then the ongoing monitoring. So even after we have implemented a FX Loader for being able to automate this process, it's possible that you may have other hedging issues that occur just because of the currency fluctuations. Even though you're automating your rates, the fluctuation in rates, for example, 5% tolerance or more, you may want to set up dashboards and alerts using SafePaaS, which we provide. So that enables you to have more visibility into your gross and net exposure against FX risk tolerance levels that you established internally. And so it's a solution for Treasury, it's a solution for the finance organization, and it really improves your visibility as we get into this environment of trade wars and turmoils. And then your job is to provide that monitoring and mitigating capabilities. So, when you look at the information we provide through workflows and dashboards, and of course automate the FX Loader loading process, you can then look for those mismatches and mitigate the risk as the FX rates fluctuate over the coming months and years. So that's our simple maturity model on how you can start from objectives to really having mitigated risk and do that in a proactive fashion. With that, I'm going to ask Pete to just kind of explain to us how standard controls work today in Oracle E-Business Suite, and then from there we'll go into the automation process. So back to you, Peter.
Sure, thanks. Yes, just to take a little step back for a moment and focus on E-Business Suite and why and when do you need rates in E-Business Suite? Well, obviously, if you're using multiple currencies, you need the rates to convert your transactions. So multiple currencies could be because you've got multiple ledgers with different functional currencies, or maybe even just one ledger, but you buy and sell occasionally in a foreign currency. So the principle is those rates need to go in single table in the GL, and then they're used to convert foreign currency transactions in all modules to your functional, and also at the the GL period end processes. So revaluation, translation, those will use the rates from that same central table. And in terms of what you need in there, from an audit point of view, from GAAP principles, it's most countries, it's reliable market rates that reflect the current rates in the FX market. And in some jurisdictions, we need to augment that with official central bank rates, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And in terms of how often you update, most of our clients update daily. We see some update monthly, and again, the volatility volatility we're seeing in the market at the moment probably pushing people more towards daily, and we'll talk about that a little bit more too. So in terms of getting rates in, what Oracle provides as standard is this screen here, which you may recognize in the GL for manually entering rates. And they provide a spreadsheet loader. But even with the spreadsheet loader, you still got to get the rates into that spreadsheet manually, and you've got to upload it, and you've got to check it. So spreadsheet doesn't equal automation. It just equals a way to copy and paste things in and do things in a manual way. Slightly more quickly if you've got a lot of different rates.
So Peter, now if you can talk a little bit about how FX Loader can help customers automate this whole process. Well, before you talk about it, looks like I've got a slide about Monitor Pass and SafePaaS. So yeah, I just wanted to ensure that everybody can also see the relationship is between FX Loader and SafePaaS. So SafePaaS is obviously the platform that you have for controlling risk in your enterprise, and it has many components. So everything from documenting these objectives around FX risk or any really enterprise risk that you face in the organization, and that's at the bottom layer that you can see what we call the ArcPaaS. It's basically the audit, risk, and compliance platform as a service. So this includes all functionality and services you would need for your auditors to be able to perform audits, enterprise risk management, so looking at risk impact and likelihood, for example, or more sophisticated criteria based on weighted averages and so forth. And then compliance, whether it's SOX, whether it's GDPR, other types of policy compliances, internal, industry specific. We also provide policies, rules, and risk libraries to ensure that you can get a jump start, or basically if you're doing this all activity in spreadsheet, you can pull that in through an import process and have now a workflow enabled enterprise-wide solution that takes the pressure off the individual silos and provides a unified platform. So that's kind of the starting point or a baseline for our customers. And so FX load risk, for example, or FX risk would be one of the risks that you would identify and document and test. And your auditor would already have a plan in place, I'm sure, to do that. So this gives your management the comfort level to be able to attest that the rates are accurate and the financial statements presented have accurate information as a result of that. But that's obviously documentation, and many companies do that in spreadsheets today. It's just, spreadsheets have mistakes, and it's hard to automate spreadsheets beyond the information they contain. So what we offer is IT governance, which you see on above in the second two boxes above the bottom box, and that's basically the access controls and continuous controls monitoring. So access controls in this context will help you control who has access to those forms that Peter was just showing, right? So if people can, for example, go and make a change manually and override the risk, that sort of defeats the purpose of having FX loaders. So one of the things you may want to do is monitor and grant access to people that are, rightfully authorized to have that access. And if additional people have access, you may want to terminate their access. So for example, roles manager and policy monitor will help you identify those folks with access to sensitive data, not just FX rates, but there are 200 other things that I can talk about in any ERP system, whether it's a three-way match setup or whatever the case may be. But also on the right, under monitor pass, being able to find those transactions and master data that may have slipped through an FX loader, before you had it, or if you want to do an assessment, a business case, you can use monitor pass to identify what your current configurations are, transactions that may have FX fluctuations, and any master data that's been impacted. For example, supplier payments, liability accounts, etc. So those two tools or elements of the platform will enable you to really streamline, automate risk. And also on access side, if you have folks that can go and make a change into that FX form that Peter was just talking about, and then also go in and reverse a journal entry. You may be they may be able to hide an impact on a liability or a balance or on an asset by removing the impact of FX fluctuation, which is if it's done, incorrectly, it could lead to errors in the financial statement, or worse, it could also be fraud to hide liabilities or inflate assets. So you have to be really careful, and Access Pass protects you against that. Monitor Pass monitors those transactions. I won't have time to go through everything, but Process Pass is basically it's the automation of the entire process flow. So in this context, if you're thinking about the financial close process, we'll make sure that FX rates, the impact of the month end throughout the daily rate changes, and the year and the month end and a year end are all monitored as part of your overall close process, and it's part of the checklist that you go through to verify that your statements are correct. And so we streamline, automate the close process, and then of course provide you SafeSight, which is basically our insight for predictive analytics. to help you monitor that on a continuous basis, generate workflows, alerts as needed to identify out of tolerance level risks such as fluctuation in FX based on currency, volatility, other factors. So that's the full platform, and it's fully integrated into your ERP systems. We support many different ERP systems, just like FX Loader. And I'll let Peter now dig into the FX Loader component more.
Sure.
Go ahead, Peter.
Thanks. So why do people want to automate? This may be fairly obvious from what we've discussed already, but the two reasons clients come to us to ask to automate loading FX rates. The first is to save the time of doing it manually and have the convenience of a fully automated process they can switch on and forget about. And the second reason is to prevent errors or emissions. So of the two, I think the second is by far the bigger driver that we see. So we've had quite a number of clients come to us after some mistake event happened and the rates went in incorrectly, the wrong way round, for example. And as Adil was referring to earlier, that can lead to a fairly major problem at month end or even worse later on. So if in the case of eBusiness Suite, if you do not load the rates for a particular day, then your AP clerks, for example, won't be able to enter their transactions. So there's no rate there, they can't enter the transaction. If you get the rates wrong, the wrong way around, or even just slightly wrong, then obviously you've got transactions converted at the wrong rate. And the big question there is, when are you going to notice? Hopefully you've got some monitoring set up, as we talked about. If you notice quickly, you can correct it. But it could be worse than that. It could be month end. It could be even when you're being audited and some rates are found to be incorrect, and that can have a major impact and cause problems. So in terms of how you automate, I won't go into a lot of technical details here. So this shows our FX Loader cloud platform integrating with the rates providers, the sources on the left-hand side, and various ERPs on the right. One important point here is we do everything with web services, no files moving around. And as you can see, we sometimes push the rates to your ERP and sometimes the rates are pulled, and it depends on which ERP you're running. In the case of eBusiness Suite, we actually offer both. So the pull scenario is probably more common because most EBS instances are behind some sort of firewall. So you pull the rates in from our cloud platform after it's already got the rates and done the processing you need. But you have the push option as well. And then a little bit of discussion about the different sources of rates. So we support quite a number, as you can see. We support all of those except the last point on there, which are more for manual loading. Oanda and Exignite are by far the most popular of these. They both provide authentic market rates for every single tradable currency and some central banks. So as I alluded to earlier, in terms of the accounting principles for certainly UK, US, and quite a few other countries, it's sufficient just to have market rates. So as long as you can prove that the rate you're using reflects the FX market at that point in time, then auditors are going to be happy. But there are a number of other countries where they have statutory requirements for certain statutory reports that need to use the official rates published by that country's central bank. So market rates aren't enough. You've got to use the exact official rate published by that central bank. So we're seeing that more and more, to be honest. We see it a lot for China, Mexico as well, and Brazil. In Europe, France and Italy, the European Central Bank. But we've also implemented it for Argentina, Uruguay, Poland, Russia, Serbia, Romania, Israel, quite a number of others, where to varying degrees the local requirements reflect the need to use those official central bank rates. So most of our clients using these mix them in with a market rate. So they'll get market rates for certain combinations and mix them in with central bank rates from other sources.
Okay. So Peter, we're all waiting for the demo. Let me make you the presenter and see if you can show us how this all works together.
Sure.
Here you go, guys. Peter's going to show you the live product and how simple it is to use. Yeah, go ahead.
Great. Okay, so this is our Oracle Cloud Platform. So this, as you've seen, is the application where we set up what you need in terms of FX rates, which currencies you need. So this is not an application you're going to use every day. This is more set up once and then automate it and then forget about it unless you receive notifications. But you may need to come back in here, of course, and add a currency, etc. So I won't go through a full demo. Of course, we can organize that, but for now, let me give you a brief overview of how this works. So the core of it is we set up one or more runs. So the run has a frequency we select. So you can choose any of those. Mostly it's run daily, but we can also do period end and period average rates for use in your GL processing at the end of the month. And we set a time that we want to run, which is obviously determined by what time of day you need transactions in the system, but also determined in some cases by your source, so which source you've selected, what time do they publish, etc. And we've got a couple of retry options, which here, these really just increase the robustness of the process. So if there's any sort of problem, instead of just failing and notifying, it can actually retry automatically according to these parameters here, 4 times at 30 minutes apart, for example. So that's the run. As well as the run itself, of course, we want to be notified. So we have our support account, and you can be notified on errors or even for every run. We can send a CSV and you can be notified on retries, etc. So lots of notification options. But the core of what we're going to do is define in the stages down here. So in this example, we've got a fetch stage to actually pull the rates from Xignite in this case. We've got a triangulate stage to create cross rates. And then we've got two load stages. We could have more than one fetch stage, for example. So in this case, we're just selecting one fetch stage from Xignite. We've got a currency set. I lost my connection for a second there. We've got a currency set, which you can imagine you just select the currencies you need, various options in there. And we say, okay, in this case, we want US dollar to everything else to be loaded in. And we don't need a date offset. And then triangulation is creating cross rates. So that can say, okay, I need my cross rates calculated for me. So for every currency via the dollar. And then we've got two load stages. One, for example, one's going to be into EBS via a pull. So we select the rate type, the bid, ask, mid, the decimal places, any date offsets or extra days, etc. And then the second load stage is in example here. Let's say you need to load to Sales Cloud as well. And in this case, it's a push. So we've got some more details about the instance we're sending to. We've got a URL and a username and password so that we can use the web service to send the rates through. So it depends which type of application you're sending into. Finally, we have the option to set up some variance alerts. So these are similar to those available in SafePaaS as well, but these are part of the run. So here we've said, okay, if 5%, if there's a 5% difference to yesterday's rates for any currency pair, then I want to be alerted via email. And we can also check against a reference source. So this is to guard against whatever source you're using. The rates may be incorrect, or there may be a big change. You can be alerted, and we can set up notifications again, email addresses against those alerts. Okay, so yeah, that was a very brief overview. If I give it back to you, Adil, we can move on.
Okay, let's do. That was excellent. So guys, one of the things that you might be wondering is how long this takes to set up. And Peter, one of the questions we've had is, around that. Could you give us a little bit of an idea how long a typical customer spends on setting up FX Loader, what you just showed, basically?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, this we realized right at the start that loading FX rates is never going to be the biggest issue you have in your ERP. So we just decided we had to make it very quick and simple to set up. So we worked really hard on that. But the cloud platform setup we've just seen literally takes 10 minutes, but we normally do it via a 30 minutes go-to-meeting call where we share the screens, we discuss what you need, we explain the options and set it up. If we're using a push, that's it, it's done. By the end of that call, you're pushing rates in. If it's a pull, then obviously there's a small piece of software to install on the EBS side, which again is all fully scripted, so that that could take 10 minutes of a DBA time, and then you set that up and it will pull the rates in. So within according to how much availability your DBA has, within half a day it's very easy to set it up and running and see it running for 30 days on a trial basis.
Excellent. See, that's wonderful. Being able to really deliver on the value proposition of a cloud application where it's easy to integrate and quick to set up. So tell us a little bit about your customers. How are they using it? What were some of the challenges that they were able to address, without obviously giving us any confidential information, but things that we can all learn and maybe apply to our businesses?
Sure, absolutely. So I've picked out 3 here who are all using eBusiness Suite. So Hologic have been with us for some time, and they over 500 rates they need to load every day, as well as period averages at the end of the period. And they've been using FX Loader for some years now, and obviously their priority was they had quite a resource-intensive manual effort each day, and they've replaced that. And now it just runs in the background, and they forget about it. AAM have a statutory need for a bunch of central bank rates. So as I was referring to before, certain jurisdictions, the market rates are not good enough. So AAM do use market rates and they load them every day. But on top of that, they load central bank rates for Mexico, Poland, Sweden, and Thailand. So they've got 5 processes running every day at different times to add those rates in. They actually add those central bank rates into the same rate type. You have an option to create a different rate type in EBS to load them into instead. But they've chosen to override the market rates with the central bank rates in the same rate type. And the final one I chose was Vonage. So they came to us more recently. They'd acquired a company that was using a significant number of currencies. And so their manual process was now more risky and more time consuming. So they put in FX Loader for eBusiness Suite, and now they're looking at moving to ERP Cloud, as I'm sure some companies will be over the next couple of years. And so what we've done is set up the same link for the same rates into ERP Cloud, and they're testing that at the moment. As soon as they go live, it'll be a nice seamless cutover.
So, Peter, we got a couple of questions around these case studies, and if you can help us kind of answer those. Why do customers, use your product versus build, let's say, a custom interface or have their system integrator that's implementing Oracle come in and just, hack this together? Why do people pick why do these customers specifically, but in general, why do customers pick your product? I understand it's off the shelf, and we, of course, love the fact it's it's tested just from an audit perspective, but what's your why do customers buy this product?
Sure, yeah. As you say, there's the classic build versus buy argument,
Right.
But in addition to that, I think there's three reasons, I guess. So firstly is speed. We can set it up so quickly rather than adding to your development team, and that's a classic build versus buy argument. But the 2 main ones I say are support the features. So Nothing goes wrong generally with exchange rates. Maybe once a year, some of these sources might have a problem. But when it does come up, because we're dealing with these every day and we've got very close relationship with the sources of rates, we probably know about it before you do. And the fact that it's a cloud application allows us to be proactive in terms of the support as well. So we can see it before you do, and we hear about it from other customers or from Oanda themselves, and we can solve those things very quickly, and if not before you even know about it. And the second side, of course, is the features. You know what features you need now, but you may not know what you need in the future. If you have an office in Mexico, you may suddenly need the central bank rates. So adding a currency, adding central bank rates, changing triangulation, it's all built in already. We've built stuff for our customers over the years that we make available to everyone else. So yeah, you're pretty much future-proofed in terms of whatever you need it to do, there's a feature there already for it. So that tends to be the thinking.
Okay, well, that's an excellent response. So if I were to summarize that, I would say that it seems to me that it's a more cost-effective solution, number one, because obviously if you were building it custom, you're paying somebody by the hour or taking them away from another project, whereas this is something, as we've seen, is as close to plug and play as you're going to get, right? 30 minutes, you're up and running. So cost savings, it would be a big factor in your decision making. The other thing that you mentioned was mostly around reliability, right? That when you pick FX Loader, you know these guys, this is all they do, that's in their brand. So Peter knows all the issues that can go wrong, and he's already built this out. So it's a very reliable solution. Whereas if your internal developer or a contractor has moved on to the next gig, and something happens, now you're scratching your head and you've lost the solution, right? So reliability seems to be a real advantage of why customers would pick this, and that's something clearly we have heard from the market. And the last but not least is the support, the ability that you provide all the support if the exchange rates don't go as planned. So maybe elaborate on that last point a little bit more. Like what can go wrong once we're up and running with FX Loader? Especially around the rate changes and somebody's services are down. And then how do you respond to that? I know you're based in UK. A lot of your customers are here in the US. So how do you handle that, Peter?
Sure. Yeah. So the kind of problem, as I say, you don't get many problems. The whole point of this is that it's robust and that it's running in the background and you forget about it and you wait till you're alerted. What we do see, I guess Oanda and Xignite maybe have one problem a year. So an example would be the rates were not updated one day, or there was a particular currency that wasn't available for a short period of time. So those sort of things we know about from our relationships with the sources and also from being alerted through the cloud platform. And in that case, we'll obviously work with the source, and if we need to, temporarily switch you over to another source for a particular currency if there's a problem there. Other kind of issues you might get if we're pushing the rates, we're using a web service and a username password. Maybe the password has expired. Again, we'll be alerted straight away and we'll contact you to sort those things out. So yeah, in the rare cases where there is an issue, we're alerted very quickly. We have support folks in Vancouver who can cover the time zones. So again, it's something, as any SaaS business, we focus very, very highly on is keeping customers happy. And if this process went wrong a lot and involved effort from our clients, then we wouldn't be doing our job. So we're highly focused on that.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. And I can attest to that, seeing your organization grow and expand and acquire more customers since last several years that we worked together. Okay, thank you very much for that information. Now we also have a couple of more slides around, what are the customers' priorities around selecting this and so forth. So if you want to make some more comments around here.
Yeah, we've already discussed this actually, I think in the earlier question about making it as quick and easy as possible to set up. So our priorities, that's the first one, make it really easy. And some of the comments that attest to that, anything to do with an ERP is normally quite complex, but our customers are generally pretty surprised about how quickly this can be set up. And in addition to that, covering every feature you may need and rock solid reliability, those three things together are our priorities.
Okay. So thanks for summing it up. I think we are running out of time, and we're also out of questions. So what I would recommend is, if you're interested in learning more about it, is to contact us, contact Peter, FX Loader, and set up a demo. And we can certainly talk about in depth of your specific pain points and how quickly we can help resolve them, and not just quickly, but completely, reliably, and so forth. So SafePaaS is our platform that enables us to really go against many different ERP systems. Some of those were covered in the session today. And with the Monitor Pass, which is our monitoring capability, can augment the loading of FX and really help you strategize around your potential FX fluctuations that might be coming in this year and past that, as the rates continue to fluctuate, as your businesses get more global. So please reach out to us and stay tuned for the next webinar. We're presenting the same webinar also today in the US time zone at noon New York time. So please feel free to notify your US counterparts to attend. Thank you very much and have a great day.